huge honor today to be podcast interviewing Courtney Roberts, who's a fellow in the American Academy of Dental Office Managers. In 2014, she earned the title of Fellow by the American Association of Dental Office Managers, and she was a nominee for the 2015 and 2016 National Office Manager of the Year Award. AADOM also honored Courtney with the Office Manager Distinction Award 2 years in a row, an award only given to 8 recipients throughout the nation each year. Most recently, Dental Products and Reports named Courtney as one of the top 25 women in dentistry for 2016, a recognition she is beyond grateful to represent within the industry. She has received national publications on practice management articles that have been featured in DentistryIQ, Dental Assisting Digest, and The Observer. She has continued her passion of dentistry by becoming an accredited AADOM Ambassador, and she has also proudly serves on the board of directors for the San Diego chapter for Dental Office Manager Study Club. Courtney, thank you so much for coming on my show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Well, you know, I talked to too many endodontists, periodontists, pedodontists, prosthodontists, and probably most of the people you're talking to are dentists. But what do you think dentists should be thinking about when it comes to their office manager?
You know, I think so much needs to be invested in the practice manager. It's so important for our practices now, and I think a lot of offices aren't really investing in their practice manager as much. So I think getting education for them is what they really need to be thinking about. That's what I think. Well, and you've gone to one of the conferences as well, so I think you can attest to how great they are.
What's that? What was the last
one? I think you went to one of the conferences for us. I actually took your class at the AADOM conference, so I think you can probably attest to how great.
No, that was actually Brad Pitt visited the meeting, and you thought it was me.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But that was actually Brad Pitt. But no, a general dentist wears too many hats. I mean,
absolutely.
How can you master fillings, root canals, crowns, all the dentistry, and then do all the office manager stuff? What do you? A lot of these young kids. They're coming out of school. They buy a practice. It's got one receptionist, 1 or 2 assistants, and a hygienist. And they always think, well, do I need an office manager? What would you tell that young kid?
You know, it's so important to have a manager. I mean, you're kind of cruising for a burnout without somebody who knows how to lead your team, right? And you don't know what you don't know. So just let your manager do the managerial part of your practice. If they know how to do it and they can run it beautifully, let go of those reins. You know, you have so much other stuff to worry about and to focus on. You know, just keep your sanity where it is and let your managers manage. That's what we're here for. You know, we're here to help you guys out. So use us.
I just heard just a splash of East Coast accent come out of that San Diego.
The South. We're from Louisiana.
Where are you from?
Louisiana.
Oh, that's Louisiana.
Yeah. I try to correct it now, being on the West Coast a little bit, so it comes out all kinds of crazy.
So where are you from in Louisiana?
Baton Rouge.
Baton Rouge. That's where Sandy Pardue's from.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that place, and I'm still not sure what they put in gumbo. But I'm pretty sure no one really knows what's in there.
Yeah, I don't think anybody knows anything about that. Yeah.
So when you're talking to fellow AADOM members, what are common problems that dentists are doing that office managers wish they would stop doing or think more about or understand more?
Well, I think they maybe just let them lead in parts where we can do. You know, we can do the staff, we can do the business part. You know, so just kind of let us do our thing. But it's important that we feel that we're invested in. So just give us the opportunity to do our trainings, and I think the dentists can really benefit from that.
I see a lot of dentists on Dentaltown posting that the office manager said, you know, you got to do this blue and go left. So they run around the office manager and go to the dentist, say, I want to go red and go right. How do you handle those situations when you're leading the staff and they're trying to run around you and go to the doc?
Yeah. You know, it's all about teamwork, and it's kind of one of those things, but you have to communicate with it. You have to have a good relationship with each person in your team. And you know how it goes. It's going to happen sometimes where there's bumps in the roads and there's growing pains with staff. But you have to just get through them, and it's one of those things you have to sit down and talk about your staff with, talk to the doctor about. You guys have to be on the same page, right? You can't allow something to come in the back door and say, oh, well, this person's okay, but that person's not. So you have to work together with your team. So, dentistry is not ever easy in any section, the front, the back, the managerial side. It all takes work, and it all takes, fluidity together.
So I'm a grandpa baby boomer, and they
Uh-huh.
keep telling us that these millennials are different. Do you think millennials are different than grandpa
Oh,
baby
yeah,
boomers?
absolutely. Yeah, of course. There's a lot about millennial that are different than every other generation, So, I'm hoping that with this podcast that we're not only going to kind of go over what's different about millennials, but kind of get excited about what they bring to the table. And then also hopefully we can clear up some, ambiguity about how to keep your young talent happy.
Well, go take it away, darling.
So start off, I think it's important to remember that, not everyone's going to fit the mold, right? We can't make every single person, squeeze into a generation cookie cutter. You know what I mean? So if you have an employee or if you have a person on your staff that, says that they don't do social media, like don't freak out, don't call the police, they're not crazy. Not every single person in millennial is going to be like the others, but millennials are also, they're known as Generation Y. So that would put them in between the early to mid 80s to the year 2000. So that's kind of the age range that we're looking at. And so last year I was reading that the US Census Bureau said that there are over 75 million millennials, right? So they actually surpassed the baby boomers, and they're the nation's largest living generation. So that's a lot. So here's the real good stuff, right? So according to CNBC, millennials have a global spending power over $2 trillion, right? I was like, oh, that's a lot of money. So I think as dental practices, we have to cater to these groups of patients, and I think kind of to go back to what you were saying, it would be terrible for us to treat these people or this millennial generation as we had in the past, because $2 trillion is a lot of money that we just need to pay attention to. Yeah.
So you're talking about how to focus on getting these millennials in as patients.
Right. And so the thing is with millennials is convenience, right? So that's how to get to your millennials is convenience. And I think that it's common that practices overlook how important it is to offer so much convenience. Simply, for us, we don't run towards changes as dental practices typically. But millennials know that the technology is out there, that it exists for us to be able to offer them the maximum convenience, right? So if patients know that we have the capability to offer their convenience, they're going to know which offices choose to listen to them and what offices choose to not hear what they want. Right. So I wrote down a couple of suggestions, if that's okay, to kind of go over some ways to help treat your millennial patients. Okay. The first one's really easy, right? So automated confirmations. So if you're not doing automated confirmations by now, okay, if you can't reach out to your patients through text or through email, there's just no way you're going to be able to retain the millennial patient. I mean, just conversations through technology is basically the foundation of the millennial DNA, right? And we just live in an era where if someone calls, we send it to voicemail and then we text them like, why the hell are you calling me? It's just how it is right now. So it's just really important that automated confirmations are what we're using in our practice. So that's my number one.
Explain to me as a father, how come when I call my kids, they don't answer, then they text me back what?
Yeah, what? Yeah, I know, exactly. It happens all the time. That's just kind of how we live now, So it's important that that's how we are communicating to our patients. And another big thing that go ahead.
The older guys are thinking, okay, well, what company does this automatic confirmation? What are your favorites that do this?
Well, there's a lot of them out there. I prefer to use Revenue Well. We've worked with them and they seem to be fantastic. And it's more than just, text and calls. There's a lot of different outsourced things for your office, marketing. So that's one of the best ones. There's other ones out there too, but that's the one that I would recommend.
Revenue Well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so another thing too that I think is really interesting is that patients really like a program, it's an accessory to your practice management, but it'll allow them to make their appointments online, right? And I think that within a few years, this will, without a doubt, be the total norm to our practices. And I know it's completely mortifying for most offices to, give up control of their schedule. But you got to think about it. When social media really took off, a lot of offices weren't into it, right? They thought it was crazy to even have to invest in a website. And I think that a lot of those offices down the road found that maybe they were being labeled as irrelevant to some people because they were just kind of out of touch. So I think automated appointments is going to be what social media was 5 to 7 years ago. You know, it's going to be the norm. And I think that we sort of just needed to adapt to these changes. And, you know, just a side note, corporate dentistry is already doing this, right? They are already allowing patients to schedule their appointments online, and they do an excellent job at offering their patients convenience. So it's just something to.
Do you know which corporate dentistries do this? I think there's 35
like
different. Which ones?
The lakes, some lakes, whatever it is. And I know Western Dental was doing it at one point as well.
So I'm going to back up just.
But I know there's a lot of.
What a lot of the younger kids listening to you right now are about to start an office. You AADOM people work with all the practice management systems. Do you guys have a favorite?
Well, I'm endo, so it's tough to have a favorite practice management software since we're endo. So I don't. Dentrix obviously is the favorite, or just that I hear the most about. But it's really, you know, it's not really my forte since I'm endo.
So you work for an endodontist then?
Yeah, full time.
Full time. So back to making appointments online. What software vendors work with your practice management softwares?
That I know about is called Local Med. It's actually the guy that invented it's from Baton Rouge, so it's, you know, why I've heard about it. But I've heard other companies use that. It's Local Med, and I think that some other companies are starting to come out more so as well. But that's the one that I've heard great things about. You know,
well, you know, it's strange because it's true. Millennials would rather go to an ATM machine than walk inside the bank and deal with the teller. And they'd rather pay their bills on their phone or online than mail in a check.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's e-commerce, right? And that's our time now, especially millennials. That's just what we're doing. It's how we're spending our money. Everything's online. We'd rather do it online than have to call, have to have interaction with someone. You know, that's just kind of how it is now. So we just need to know that's in dentistry, that's what we're dealing with, and that's sort of what we need to adapt to with these changes.
So you were talking about millennials. What convenience?
Yeah.
You're talking about automated conversation, making appointments online. What other convenience do they want? Well,
obviously there's a thing such, you know, CERIC, right? Technology. So many offices really are kind of lagging behind on what they're offering. You know, and they need to realize that if you're going to put the patient through the torture of having to wear a temporary crown, stressing out about having to chew, and then they hear that their friend's dentist does same-day restorations, and I don't even think free dentistry will keep that millennial coming back, right? So you're just not going to be able to retain a millennial patient without having update technology. And not just that, your practice needs to be modern, right? It needs to have, you know, not super contemporary, but that picture of a cat from 1984 hanging in the reception area, we're just, you know, we're not that into it. So just take it down. So, you know, your office needs to look great. You know, just all these things need to come together, but technology is really what's going to keep your millennials in the practice.
Wow, I just went to that Local Med you said on Twitter. So they're at localmed.com. And their first tweet, or the last tweet out, says over 40% of appointments scheduled on our platform are while the office is closed.
Wow, isn't that crazy?
That is that is something to really think about.
Absolutely, I think it's something that's real. I think in the next 5 to 7 years, it's going to be the norm. And I think the more that we're innovative and the more that we're on top of this curve, you know, the practices are going to reap benefits from that. So I would totally get on that train if it's something that the practice is able to do. So, you know, and kind of to go back to your e-commerce situation, that's another thing that I think we need to offer to our patients is a way for us to have your computer or your website company set up a gateway so that way your patients can accept payments online, right? You can go on the computer, pay their bill, and it's done. There's no telephone calls, no checks, kind of like what you said. Nobody mails things in anymore. Having to call someone's a burden for millennials. So just have it set up on your website. Let them do it online, and it's done, you know? That's something to think about.
So what else do we need to know? What other conveniences do millennials want?
Uh, Obviously, we do not like to wait. And it's tough in dentistry because we're on different sides of it, right? You have to be careful with that. But I think if we feel there's a trust involved in our practices and we understand the importance of why we're there, it's okay. But there's sometimes offices, especially a medical doctor, right? You go to your medical doctor and you wait 2 hours after they close you in that little window, right? They close you in that window, make you sit forever, and they're so obligated to talk to you. And people are just over that. They really are. So I think dental practices, we need to have just a welcoming environment and make our millennial patients feel like they're part of our office, not just our patients, right?
So how do you think you market to millennials different than you do grandpa baby boomers?
Yeah, absolutely. So marketing to millennials is going to be a little bit different, right? So in the past, millennials, we were doing, phone book ads, whatever that even means, radio advertising, stuff like that. But it's different because millennials, they don't want to be marketed to, they want to be marketed with, right? And so some of the things that I think that we can look at is what millennials like. And a lot of millennials like being involved in charity work. So something that you could do, an idea you can try, is maybe saying, hey, we're doing a campaign where all of our proceeds from our exams are going to a charity, or something like that, right? And you put that on your Facebook, your Twitter, your website, your emails, you send that out, and you can even go a step further and say, make a Facebook poll.
So is Yelp a millennial thing, since I've never seen a live baby boomer ever use Yelp? Or not really?
Yeah, no, I think Yelp is definitely a millennial thing, and I think it will progress to different generations. Just like Facebook, right? When Facebook first started, it was all millennials, and now it's saturated with, your grandma's friend from church, and it's that age group, right? So I think it'll progress to that, but millennials right now, that's kind of their beehive for sure, and we had to be aware of it, and a lot of providers, it's really annoying sometimes because people can go on there, crazy people can go on there and write whatever they want, and there's nothing we could do about it. So we kind of have to take it in strides.
So how do you think you would market differently to a millennial as opposed to a 50-year-old?
Well, it's just doing those things that millennials, what they like, right? Like, so for example, like internal marketing, people, I've been seeing this, offices have been putting in charging stations inside of their office, like little phone charging booths, right? And so they say, like, and have a little sign, like it says, have a snack and charge your phone too. And these patients are coming to their practice early for their appointments just to charge their phone, right? And if you think about it, when you're at the airport and you're waiting to load at your gate, all these people are hovering over the cell phone outlets. And it's not just millennials, it's all kinds of generations are trying to charge their phone. So if you can make your practice adapt to them and cater to them, and having a charging phone station, it's something that we didn't offer before, but they'll definitely love now. So that's something you can try out too.
So do you think, like you said, your generation, I don't think you ever used a phone book, right? Do you think Facebook ads? What's that? Do you think?
No, I've never. Yeah, phone books. I use them for like a paper to like blow my nose or something. Like, what is phone books even for?
So do you think Facebook advertising is a better way to reach millennials, or what do you think about Facebook advertising or that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a great way. And not just, a lot of offices still don't use Facebook, which amazes me that they haven't used that. You can spend $15 on promoting an ad and you will get thousands and thousands of views from this. And it's just such a way to inexpensively reach out to so many people, especially millennials, not just millennials. Like what I said earlier, Facebook is just, so integrated with different generations. You have all kinds of people on Facebook now, and it's not just, 20 somethings. So it's not just millennials you can reach out to. A lot of people are on Facebook now. So it's almost devastational to not have one for your practice.
What about these other things? Like I saw that Snapchat just went public. I mean, I obviously don't have Snapchat on my phone. Are there advertising opportunities on Snapchat or Instagram?
Usually the generation that's on Snapchat is a little bit younger than the generation that you're trying to reach. Same thing with Instagram, which Instagram is great, especially if you're an orthodontist. That's a great way to use it. But usually that's the younger generation that are on those social media platforms that they're not quite yet in your marketing target for that group. So I don't know. I would,
The orthodontists tell me they're confused about ortho because some young millennials or maybe they're not even millennial if they're in high school,
right.
but some of them want wires because they want to change the colors of the rubber bands and all that, and then others want the clear aligners, the Invisalign,
Right.
and it's kind of mentally confusing to an orthodontist about
Yeah.
you can't pigeonhole them all saying they all
Exactly.
want this or that. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on braces and Invisalign for millennials?
Most people I think are going into Invisalign right now because aesthetically people are really concerned about how they're looking and stuff like that. So I don't know. It's something, like you said, every millennial is different. It's not going to be cookie cutter thing, but I think that maybe Invisalign is kind of the most popular. And Invisalign is also a little bit faster than most orthodontic plans, and of course everybody's about speed now and quicker, look better, faster, and that kind of thing. So I don't know.
So your only social media recommendation for advertising would be Facebook. What about it? Wouldn't be. What about Twitter?
Yeah, Twitter. Yeah, it's a great thing.
LinkedIn.
Well, LinkedIn, absolutely. LinkedIn, is a great thing just for your personal, professional. It's a great thing to have. But Twitter is great too because you can do promos on Twitter that make people look forward to your Twitter for something, right? And actually, I have a couple of marketing things that I want to show you about some companies that are doing it fantastic. And one of them is kind of to Twitter. I'm going to show you a picture, see if you can guess it, who it is, okay? Okay, who do you think this is?
I don't know.
Okay, it's the Wendy's girl. It's kind of a trick.
The Wendy's girl.
Yeah. So Wendy's, if you ever looked at Wendy's Twitter, they're hilarious, right? Whoever runs their Twitter is a genius, okay? Let me read you a couple of their tweets. Okay, so one of them says, Wendy's, how much does a Big Mac cost? And they say, your dignity. Okay. One of them says, Wendy's, why are your burgers square as opposed to being circular? And they say, we don't cut corners, right? This has over like 10,000 shares, right? Here's my favorite one. They say, Wendy's, can you find me a nearest McDonald's? And look what they post. Right? And they're marketing and it pays off. They have like 1.5 million followers, I think. And some of their likes get up to like 10,000 shares, like 30,000 likes. So we can learn from that as to where it's, we don't have to be so sassy with our tweets. But
what are you on Twitter? Are you at Four Frontiers or at Courtney Roberts?
No, it's mine is it's Court COURT _2077. I haven't used it in a while.
Court _ then what was it?
2077, I believe is what it is.
2077. Court _ 2077.
Yeah.
I'm not finding you. 2077.
Let's see. Maybe I switched it.
Is it Court COURT _?
The old good old classic way. Oh wait, you know what? That was my email. Okay, so try this one. Cajun, CAJUN, Cajun.
CAJUN. _.
Sauce. Cajun sauce.
SAUCE.
That's me.
Cajun sauce. Cajun. Oh, I put Cajun sauce. You're right. There you are, Courtney Roberts.
That's right.
Very good.
Very good. So yeah. So anyway, Wendy's Twitter is pretty great, and I think a millennial actually does the Twitter's page, but they're hilarious. So anyway, I think that
I just retweeted your at Cajun _ sauce. Thank you so much, DPR Live, for selecting me as one of the top 25 women in dentistry. I am forever grateful. I just retweeted that to 20,000.
Oh, great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
So you think Twitter can get you new patients being like Wendy's?
I don't think you can. I don't think nobody's ever said, "Oh, this is a great Twitter page from this one person." I think it will help retain those millennial patients, and I think it'll help get them interactive with your practice. So I think it's definitely a great thing to have. Is your Twitter. But it all has to work together. It all has to be the same vehicle, kind of doing the same same goal. And I have another company too I want to show you that's doing it right. Okay, can you guess who this one is? Okay, I'll give you a hint. Let me see if I could. Not to zoom in on her butt or anything, but it's Nike.
It's the what?
So, oh, sorry. This one's Nike.
Okay,
Let me show
Nike.
you. Yeah. So Nike is basically, so this is one of their ads, right?
Right.
Nike is basically like the gold Olympian of marketing. They pretty much set the standards, and they do such a great job as selling not necessarily a product, but they're selling a purpose or selling a reason. And so I would encourage most people to follow Nike because they just do a phenomenal job of marketing to their audience. And Nike's number one audience right now, if you could guess, is millennial women. They are so into right now marketing to millennial women, and I'm sure they've done a lot of data and research onto why they chose to do this. So we can probably do it in our own practice. Like we can do, a campaign to, celebrating strong women in your practice or patients, right? And make it to where you get to know your patients more and celebrate, great women and things that they do. And it's a fun campaign to run. So it's just something to think about.
You know what my biggest millennial adjustment has been for Dentaltown lately?
What's that?
Well, when I got out of school, 30 years ago this year, Vegas was the hot big thing, and everyone liked to go there and drink and smoke and gamble and all that stuff. And then we realized the millennials, your generation, is not really into drinking and smoking and gambling in Las Vegas. And so after this year, after 15 yearly meetings in Las Vegas, our 16th one, we're moving to Orlando.
Really? Wow. Because the millennials won't drink?
Well, no, they seem to like Orlando and that environment and taking their kids and all that, as opposed to the Vegas thing. I think, when you think of like who's the biggest stars in Vegas, you're thinking of the Rat Pack and those crooners and all that stuff. And I think who do you think the millennials like more, Vegas or Orlando?
I like Vegas. I love, but I like to drink and, but Orlando. So I'd vote Vegas all day, but,
well, are you married with children?
I'm married, no kids. I had 2 dogs, and that's plenty enough. Yeah.
So you'd say, are you a genius or a super genius trading in children for 2 dogs?
Oh yeah, it's like super genius. People are like, all these things that you're doing, do you not have a life? And I'm like, I don't have any kids. Of course I have a life. I can sleep in on a Saturday and have mimosas when I wake up. It's fine. But but Orlando's a pretty popular spot, that's for sure.
Yeah. How do you keep a millennial team happy? What if you're an old 50-year-old baby boomer and you got a lot of young millennial team members?
Well, I think this is a great thing for us to come up with, or ideas on how to keep your team happy, right? And I think one of the first things to know is they're different than your other staff members, right? They have a different experience. They've had helicopter parents. They've had a lot of praise.
What is a helicopter parent?
Oh, they're hovering. They're hovering over.
I've never even heard that.
Really?
Helicopter parent?
Yeah, they hover too much. Helicopter parents.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I believe that a million times.
Yeah, so you have to know that there's a different way for them to be in your practice, and also too, millennials, they can multitask on a level that most people have never seen before. So a lot of people don't realize that, but multitasking is kind of our thing.
So you're saying when I'm talking to my 4 boys and they're staring at their phone texting that they're really listening to me? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Right, maybe. I don't know.
Did they pay you money to say this?
I mean, not yet, but but yeah, I think just knowing that they can multitask and they like to work in groups, right? Millennials like to do group work, and I think
why is that?
We're all about communicating. We're all about kind of doing things together. People like to kind of work in pairs. They like to be communicative with each other. So I think that. They work better in teams than some other generations may have in the past. But I think some other things that we can kind of come up with that I think would be helpful. It's not really a puppy breath scented candle type of an idea, but accountability is a huge thing, right? And I think each each member of the team needs to have, their own specific duties and roles that they help make the practice succeed. So assigning millennials accountability is huge, because not only do they feel that their work is more valuable and appreciated, but they know that they have a value voice, within the practice, and their opinion matters. So I think accountability is something to really put high on your list. And also, too, millennials, they want to know if they're doing a good job or not. And honestly, I think that's whether or not you're a millennial or any other generation. People want to know if they're meeting expectations. So it's an absolutely terrible idea to wait for things to come up, or things to build up before something is said to your employee, because one, it's overwhelming, but people just want to hear that what kind of job that they're doing, and millennials need that more than your other prior generations. Anyway, it's going to help with your morale, and it also will help with their level of productivity.
So, what you think they need, that baby boomers like me don't give them enough praise, or don't give them enough attention, or
they just need a little bit more communication that wasn't there in the past. Just daily interaction about, hey, this is how this is, or good job with this, or during this patient, this could have been differently. They just need a lot more talking with during the day than some of the past generations needed in our office. So that's important to,
I want to ask you a question that I hear this a lot from women dentists. Women dentists report this, so I'm not making this stuff up. This is what they say. They say that they work for an old man like me. He talked to the staff like this. And they all what he said. They jumped. They did it.
Right.
Then she buys the practice, and now it's gone from an old man to a young 30-year-old woman. And she says the staff treats her and reacts to her totally different than they did the old man. Is that a monster that lives between her ears, or is there some reality to that?
There probably is some reality to that. It's because the way baby boomer men manage or run a practice is different, than millennials, and it's tough. So I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of truth to that. So that's definitely some growing pains with that as well for a new office. So there's probably quite a bit of truth to that.
What advice would you give to a millennial to fast forward their leadership skills?
A lot of it doesn't come overnight, right? So many millennials think that it happens just like that, or you finish college and you get to walk in your first day on the job with this big title, and it just takes a lot of learning. It takes a lot of watching, a lot of patience. It doesn't happen right away. But there's so many resources that are available. So I think it's important for millennials to know that you have people who've done this before you, and there's resources out there. So just use them, right? You can, they have these podcasts. You could do it on your way to work. You can do all kinds, all kinds of things that you could do. But just know that it takes work, and it doesn't happen overnight.
And talk about AADOM. That's been a force in your development, correct?
Absolutely. AADOM's been huge for my career, and I would recommend any dentist have their office manager a part of AADOM, especially the fellowship program. I would highly recommend that to any office, and it's for an office manager to have a place that's just designated for them and where they can go for their own education, because that role is so crucial to any office. And they need to have something. I mean, how do you, dentistry is forever changing. How do you change the way you manage without having something to go to? So I would absolutely encourage any office manager to go with AADOM. That's for sure.
I wrote a column on. I've had a monthly column. What's that?
I read it. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I've wrote a monthly column since 1994, and I wrote an entire column how important that is, because so many dentists are in over their head, and they're very stressed out, and it's because they're either not delegating, or they're delegating to someone that they didn't train. And Batman had Robin, who had Tonto, who was the Lone Ranger had Tonto. I mean, you need. I mean,
no idea who that is.
Well, I like my Lori. I mean, we call each other Batman and Robin. I mean, she's been my backup for 2 decades, and I can do so much stuff without worrying, without stress. I can blossom so much because I know my right hand man over there is.
Exactly.
I don't have to backseat drive. I don't have to worry. all gets done.
Right. Especially in dentistry, it's so we're so vulnerable to a burnout, right? And it's just, and you have to have someone there to help you, and not just anybody, someone who knows what they're doing. So it's so important that you make sure that role is fulfilled to help not only yourself and your career, but making sure your practice is on the right tracks. So AADOM can definitely do that for your office manager, and not just to help the office manager in your practice, but it's there to help the dentist take off so much of their plate when they're already trying to escape burnouts and stress and all this other stuff.
Well, I think one of the things that's fueling corporate dentistry is there's just too many hats to wear. I mean, you got to be a dentist,
Absolutely.
a businessman, a marketing expert, a SEO expert, a leadership, an HR, and finally there's so damn much. You just think, you know what, I can't figure all that out.
It is, sometimes it's watching The Office. I'm like, gosh, it just stresses me out, to become a dentist. Like this, it's so much that you guys have to really worry about. And so to not have an office manager to take some of that off your plate, just it's crazy, right?
A lot of older people are saying that a lot of millennials will be, because of who they are and what they are and whatever makes up a millennial, that they'd be more attracted to just be an employee at corporate dentistry as opposed to being an owner. Do you think that's true or false, or what do you think about that statement?
Yeah, I can see where they're coming from, just kind of the things that we were just naming. It's just so much, right? So you kind of feel for them a little bit. You're like, gosh, that's tough. But from what I've seen, once they get into that environment, they don't stay in there too long, so that's something to think about. But you understand their thought process, and it's overwhelming, I'm sure, to come out of school and you get all this stuff thrown at you, not to mention the debt that you've just accrued. It's scary. So I can see how they feel that way, but we also see they don't really like it that much, and that they're not there for that long.
I think the data is overwhelmingly enormous that they hate corporate dentistry because the turnover is insane. Right. I mean, if corporate dentistry was the ticket, as corporate dentistry, I mean, they like to say, oh yeah, we're at 12% of the dentists right now, and in 20 years will be half. Dude, you can't keep your average dentist a year. There's no stickiness there.
That's insane. And not just that, as a patient, to be in that environment where you can't even go into an office and see the same doctor twice, it's just, patients don't want that. So corporate dentistry is very smart when it comes to other things, but patients really feel that circus type of environment. And it's insane. So when doctors are trying to figure out what to do, whether it's going to be a private practice or dentistry, corporate dentistry, something for them to really consider. For sure.
I don't think any millennial went to college for 8 years to be somebody's employee. I just don't see that. I mean,
absolutely.
People tell me all this theoretical bullshit fluff that says it, but I see no evidence for that. And then they'll say things like, well, see, she's a woman and she's going to have some kids, so she wants to leave at 5 so she can be a soccer mom. Are you kidding me? The ultimate soccer mom is the mom who says, you know what, I'm leaving at 3. And cancel my last 2 patients. My son just called me up and wants me to go to a soccer game. The ultimate soccer mom owns her business. Exactly. Not your employee till 5 o'clock. And she didn't go to 8 years of college to ask permission if she can go to the bathroom. I mean, when I was little in school, Catholic school, you couldn't go to the bathroom unless you got Sister Mary Aloysius to give you a bathroom card. And then as you walked to the bathroom, you had to carry the card all the way there. You're from Louisiana. You know there's Catholic schools down there. And so they didn't go to 8 years of college to get a bathroom card from Sister Mary Aloysius. And the evidence of the last 30 years of corporate dentistry is they can't retain their doctors.
Absolutely. There's definitely a paradigm shift going on between corporate dentistry and, and the influx of dentists in our industry. But I think there's a lot of hope knowing that people just really aren't into corporate dentistry, patients, and doctors as well. There's a lot of issues going in there. So it's not doomsday as what some articles make you believe for private practices. So I think that you're absolutely right. And that data shows really good numbers for private practices, I think.
Do you think corporate dentistry, as far as the other stuff, do you think they do anything better to attract millennials than the old guys?
Yeah, absolutely. So they offer so much convenience. A lot of some patients don't want to go to multiple doctors for multiple treatment. We're endo, so I can't really support that, but it's how it is. Some patients are like that. And they really know how to cater to their practice and how to market to their practice. Like I saw one of them was doing a campaign about how many CERECs that they've recently done. And it was like they celebrated their like 5,000 CEREC, in 1 month or something. It was crazy, right? But they know how to market pretty well. I know corporate dentistry was kind of big and then it came out in the 90s, but they really didn't do that hot. But their marketing has gotten substantially better.
Well, that, and there's another example of why corporate doesn't work. Like you work for an endodontist, and the patient doesn't want to go to the endodontist, the periodontist, the oral surgeon. They'd rather just go to one place and have it all done. But it's like, see, you don't see the specialist putting the patient first and rotating through the general dentist's office because they didn't go to school for 10 years to be coming into your office and being your employee. I mean, Sapien is a 2 million-year-old animal. 100 billion of them have come and lived. And I don't care if you invent the telegraph and it turns into the telephone and the internet. I don't care about any of that. There's a lot of things that are never going to change about this monkey we call Homo sapien. And they don't like to be in someone else's cave. They want their own damn cave. They want their own autonomy. They don't like competition. They don't like transparency. They don't like anybody minding their own business. They don't like you called it a helicopter parent if you're observing them too much. They like their space. They like their autonomy. And that's not going to change 2 million years from now.
Absolutely. You're exactly right. Those things will not change. There's things in life, how it is. They will never change. And that's something that I think, you definitely hit the head on that one for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So do you have any millennials in your practice on your team?
As employees? Well, yeah, we're 30 years old, so a lot of course, the newer employees.
Than I am. Congratulations.
I mean, a lot of the newer employees that have been there 5 years or less are, millennials. And I also love lecturing in different countries because I've noticed one thing lecturing international, like this Trump vote. I could predict that from the I was lecturing in London and Glasgow during the Brexit vote. And I've noticed that just because there's an artificial line that separates one country from another, these 220 countries are pretty homogenous. And one thing you've been seeing consistently with the women is after about 1945, they were averaging like 5 kids. 20 years later, they're down to 2 kids. Japan is under 1. They're now 0.9. You have about 20 countries that have a negative birth rate. If you backed out immigration, their population goes down every single year. They're having their first baby 10 years later than in 1950. And a lot of older people say, oh, they're just lazy. No, you're actually pretty smart if you don't want to be barefoot and pregnant at 16.
Absolutely.
That's not lazy. That's just actually smart. But I was lecturing in Japan, and women were telling me that the reason they didn't have a kid is because it was just so stressful. The kid would be stressed out in grammar school trying to get in the best high school, then be stressed out in high school trying to get in the best college, then be stressed out in college trying to get a good job at Honda, then work 12 hours a day, 6 days a week until they drop dead of a heart attack. They're like, I'd rather just have a cat. I mean, it's like they didn't even want to bring a child into that hellhole rat race. Yeah. And so that's not, she doesn't have a baby because she's too lazy. Yeah. She shouldn't have a baby because she's too smart to put up with all that bullshit.
Yeah, absolutely. People say, maybe it's an unselfish move. And I'm like, why? There's things that I want to do in my life, before I turn 30 that, I don't want to have a kid with that. Why can't we live our life a little bit younger? And, we don't have to be forced to have kids if we don't want. We can put other things first. And that's, you'll see a lot of that millennials. We're having kids less and less and less. And another thing, too, I was reading that twins right now are a huge thing. There's a huge growth of twins because people are waiting older, right, to have kids. And so they need help through, through the doctors. And twins are everywhere. We have 4 of our patients this 1 week had twins.
Well, you know what I think they should do with all twins? I think they should steal one of the babies and put it in another country because that's the best research. If you have identical twins raised apart since birth, that's the only way you can perfectly figure out what's genetic and what's environmental. So if we just pass one law that all identical twins had to be raised apart since birth in different continents, We would learn so much
I'm pretty
knowledge
sure
in the
they
next
probably
20
do that
years.
already. I'm sure that the government has those kind of crazy programs, you know.
I wonder how popular it would be for the parents. You know, what do you
Yeah,
think,
yeah.
Ryan? Do you think they would be all supportive of
Yeah,
research?
do you have to like pick which one goes, you know? I don't, you
Oh my
know.
God. So I want to go back to, since the majority of people listening to this are dentists, I
hmm
want to go back to um, office manager. A lot of them, you know, what percent of the offices would you say don't even have an office manager?
Not much, but I don't say an office manager. They have a front office person, and I'd say maybe 25% of the offices that I work with, you know, they have a front office receptionist or something like that. With, and it's not a title, but you know, a lot of them don't have a designated person for certain roles.
What give the dentist more advice on what they should do to focus more on their front office? Because like when your endodontist is doing a molar root canal, is it
Mm-hmm.
a man or a woman who?
It's a man. Yeah, it's a man.
Yeah, when he's looking down, I mean, I've done a gazillion root canals. When you're
Right.
looking into that molar, you're not thinking about one person in China for an hour. You're just like in a trance. I mean, it's kind of like a movie, you know, when the credits roll up, you're like, damn. Can't believe an hour just went by. I mean, when you get over the root
Yeah.
canal, you always like stand up and look at the clock, like, damn, an
Right.
hour just went by
Right.
like that. So they're not thinking about anything going on in the front when
Yeah.
he's doing a root canal. What
Yeah.
what should the dentist be thinking about in building a very efficient front office?
Well, I think the main thing is investing. You have to invest in your front office. They're not going to just learn from nothing, or even worse, they're going to learn from the office where they were before and take those mistakes, you know, into your practice. So investing in their education, not only in them, but in your office. So that's the number one thing, is to take the time to invest in them, to get them the training to make your office succeed. Because it's so important. Practice management, you know, it's your whole team in general. As there's no other contributing factor that handles the success of your practice, right? Your team is so important, and your manager is going to run that team. So you can't ignore how important they are to your office. So you have to invest in them, and there's really no way getting around it. You have to spend the time.
And you think the best investment is the AADOM?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. AADOM's it's a fantastic investment, and you know they have webinars, they have forums, they have the online, kind of like the Dentaltown does. They have a forum, they have all kinds of like resource libraries, of course, the conference, and just all, and it's so many things that they have, and that you just as office managers need. So I
And
definitely.
if you had to poll all the AADOM members,
Mhm.
and they had to line up who's the craziest to the least craziest, line up dentist, hygienist, assistant.
Oh yeah.
Which one would be batshit crazy, crazy, mildly crazy?
Well, I guess it's like, oh, you know, like what day it is, you know, or, the hygienists, you know, for most offices are probably up there, you know, and you know, the dentist can be up there. Sometimes the manager is the winner, you know. Who do you think's the most craziest?
Well, it's funny because every time I go to my physician or dentist or
Huh?
emergency room or whatever, I always ask the hospital staff there. It's always a battle between who's the craziest, the physicians or the nurses, and
Yeah.
they always say the same thing. It depends on the day.
Yeah. It
So,
really does. Yeah, you can walk in the office and kind of feel out moods. So you
but
really
but
it
but
really
but
is.
again, since most of our audience is dentists, are there any pet peeves that ADOM members have, like against a dentist or a hygienist or assistant, or are there any issues that are more common that are solvable that you hear of a lot, or you know, things that if the dentist didn't do,
Yeah.
this wouldn't keep popping up, and if she just did it this way?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think every office has their own issues. You know, every doctor has their own personality and their own type of ticks, you know. But a lot of it just comes down to making sure that you all have the same focus. Like in our office, we have this saying, it's one team, one dream. You know, we have our patients, they're always at the forefront of things. So your team always has to be on the same page, why they're all there, what goals they're working to. And if there's no, you know, ambiguity about the reason why they're all there, those things will kind of start to fade away a little bit.
I
Yeah.
always thought one of the biggest problems in dentistry is a dentist will think for 40 hours and 40 weeks on whether they should go to Cois or Spear or Pankey.
Mhm.
But then when they have their assistant quits, they'll throw an ad in Craigslist, and on Monday, two people show up with a resume, and they'll hire one of those two. I mean, they
Yeah.
take HR so unserious.
Yeah, absolutely. And HR is not it's not a sexy topic, that's for sure. So it's easy to kind of push it, under the rug. That's another reason why you have, your manager there to do those things. You got to take those things off of your plate, because if not, you're just, you're asking for a burnout or a legal issue, that you didn't know about.
Yeah, and it's funny because they like I'd say the last three people I've hired, the last three.
Huh?
I mean, we've done 35 to 50 interviews. I mean, it's as serious as trying to get a wide receiver for the San Diego Chargers. Are they still in San Diego, or did they leave
No, they
already?
left.
Oh,
They
they
left.
left.
Yeah,
So
they
so
left.
next year will be their first season in LA.
That's right. I
So
know.
so how will it feel living in San Diego without an NFL team?
Well, I'm in the South, so I'm not a big Chargers fan anyway, big Saints fan. So I really didn't care much about them, and they weren't even that good. They're actually pretty terrible. So maybe they'll do better.
Did you just say you're an Aints fan? The
The Saints
Aints?
fan. No, I know.
The Aints?
The Saints. I know.
No, no, I love that quarterback. I love that quarterback because they've never given what's his name,
Drew Brees.
Drew Brees, because he never gets a world class wide receiver. They never spend the money. He's always got a bunch of first year people, or I mean, he has the lamest receivers and throws
Every
up the
year. I know.
biggest numbers. So
I
I mean,
know.
and Tom Brady, you got to give Tom Brady credit that. I mean, if Tom
Right.
Brady walks into a game with six receivers, every one of them will be catching the ball all day long. So
I know.
I love that guy.
Yeah, we
And
love Drew. And in the South, we call them breezes, like half of Breeze and half of Jesus.
oh, really? I never heard of Breezes.
Yeah, we call them breezes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but but basically, they just if I line up 100 and I say, what is the biggest stress
hmm
in your career? They always say the staff. It's
Yeah.
always the staff, and if
Yeah.
it's not the staff, then it's the
The
patients.
patients.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
it's the same issue. It's
Yeah.
human relations. It's okay.
Yeah.
You're not communicating with your staff. You're not communicating with your patients, and you've been divorced 4 times.
Yeah.
There's
Right.
what do these things all have in common? And
Right.
so what's your advice on morning huddle and staff meetings?
Oh, you got to have those. Every office needs it. And it's just, you have to start the day off with communication. The day will probably go crazy somehow, unexpected things will happen. But if you start off with, solidarity and communication, at least you're all on the same page. So when you have that emergency patient call in and the staff huddle, you've already talked about your emergency time. So there's no frustrations about somebody being put in where they weren't expected to. So you just got to start the day off clear, and so offices that skip that, it's a huge part of the day that you're sort of.
Well, what percent of offices do you think do an office meeting?
I'm not sure how many. I would hope most of them. Most of them know it's important, but it's one of those things they kind of just say like, yeah, we're all here. This patient's crazy.
You know what I wish you would do? I wish you would start a thread on Dentaltown there's 50 forums. One of them's practice management. And when you start a thread, you can actually start it as a poll, but it can only be if it's the first post. Yeah, I wish you'd start a thread that said, "Do you start the day with a staff meeting
All right.
or morning huddle?" Because I'm curious. I mean, a hard number on what that is. And then the other question is, and you might want to start another. I wish you'd start another thread.
Oh, sorry, that was.
How often do you have a staff meeting? So some offices have them once a quarter, some once a month, some every other Friday. How often do you think that an office should have a staff meeting?
I think the norm is the once a month, and as needed if something comes up, but at least once a month, there's constant communication. There's things that you can talk about, you can try different things, and then in the month you can go over the results. But month needs to be the minimum, I think. You need to have time, quiet, where we can actually sit with one another, talk to each other, and address some things that need to be addressed, or just kind of for morale. Talk about things that are going right. Talk about what things are doing, how things are going. So once a month really needs to be, I think, what offices should do. Do you guys do them once a month, or what's your?
My staff, they all bring their knitting and crochet, and they just sit around and stitch and bitch, stitch and bitch. We call it the stitch and bitch.
That's nice. Yeah, I like that.
No, we absolutely once a month, and we absolutely the morning huddle, and I'm really. Will you start a thread asking what percent?
I sure will.
Who do
I
that?
sure will.
Because
Absolutely.
I don't know. I would think 4 out of 5. My gut, which is filled with fecal matter, so take that as you wish. My gut feeling is that probably only 20% do.
Yeah. And everybody knows they need to do it, right? But it's just one of those things that, the day starts to come and it kind of just goes. And so it's another reason why you need to have an office manager who knows, what they're doing.
Or this will be had. They'll have the once a month staff meeting. And
Uh-huh.
when is the staff meeting usually? Like an hour before lunch or an hour
Give or
after
take,
lunch,
yes. Right.
right? Yeah, and then a broken tooth calls up with a toothache and needs a root canal built on the ground, and they're with the staff meeting. I mean,
There's
and
staff
because the
meeting.
doctor's thinking, I'd rather have the $2,000 than a stupid staff meeting,
Do a staff meeting. Yeah.
and
That is
they need to have the staff meeting.
right.
When do you think
Yeah.
is the best time to have a staff meeting?
I think, like at the end of the workday, maybe let's say you do half a days, right? Go
Well,
ahead.
we can't do it at the end of the staff day because by
Uh-huh.
that time, half the office is drunk. So we,
Right.
the Listerine bottles are empty.
There you go. Right. Or you could set aside to where you have like a lunch where it's set up during lunch. You guys do it, during your lunch hour, something like that. It just depends on what days, when you do it. For our office, we're there half a day on Wednesdays. So after our last patient on Wednesdays, we just order in pizza and talk about the things that we need to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do they?
So
Can you order a Cajun pizza in San Diego?
no, you can't order some pizza. We have to get our crawfish shipped out here,
By the
So
way, I love the lamplight district in San Diego. I think that is so cool.
yeah, we live downtown, so it's nice. We walk there pretty frequently, and it's pretty nice. We love it down here.
Yeah, and I usually stay at that hotel that overlooks like some old boat. That's a restaurant in there. It looks like a big
Uh-huh.
old sailboat.
Is that your favorite one downtown?
Yeah. Do you know the name of that?
No, I don't know what you're talking about. But
Yeah.
I believe you. Yeah, I totally believe
Yeah.
you.
There's some old big looks like a 300-year-old
Uh-huh.
sailboat with big sails and everything. There's a restaurant bar in it.
I'll check it out.
Gift
Is it a good
shop,
restaurant?
whatever. Yeah, I like it. But so what's the website on AADOM? Is it ADOM.com or AADOM.com?
It's dental office managers.
Oh, it's dental office managers.
I believe.
Or is it dental managers?
Maybe it's dental managers. You can Google AADOM and it'll all come up.
What is it, Ryan? Yeah, so this is what I set up my column. And dentalmanagers.com is that just just tell your office manager that you really would like her to become a fellow in the Academy of Dental Office Managers, and that you will pay for it, and you will pay for the travel. You'll write the check.
Yeah.
Because if you write the check and you invest in your office manager, she can take many hats off you, and then you're going to be happier and healthier. And the other thing is, I believe this on human psychology more than anything. Who are people who are good in chess versus people who hate chess? Well, they're the people who love chess. I mean, some people love to play chess. Some people love movies. Some people like crocheting. I mean, if you hate something, you're not going to get good at it. So when I look at dentists, and a lot of them say, well, I'm not really good on my numbers, or I don't run my insurance aging reports, or this or that, and all these things. It's not that you learn physics and calculus and trig. You could figure this out. You just don't like it. And if you don't like it and you really want to be learning how to do an apicoectomy retrofill on a root canal, if you're not interested in something, you're never going to get good. So the best way to delegate is always, if this really turns you on and it makes you run 20 red lights on the way to work, you're going to get really good at it just because you really care and you're interested, and there's no dumb people. There's just, because I believe what the neurologists are saying, that if you dissect 100 mice, 100 ants, and 100 chimpanzees, we all got the same brain.
Yeah.
So why is this person good at the violin and I'm not?
Right.
Because she played it 4 hours a day since she was 5. If you told me I had to play violin 4 hours a day, I'd beat you over the head with the violin. I mean, I don't want to do it. So if you don't want to do it, it's your ego saying, well, I'm a doctor. I must be good at everything because I am all that. And it's like, well, if you're not interested in it, you're not going to get good at it. So go find someone interested in everything you're not interested in, and then you'll rise to the top.
Absolutely. It's the same type of mindset with your manager. If you have a manager who wants to be a part of AADOM, who wants to learn, who wants to continue their education, they have the desire to want to make your practice better. If they don't want to do these things, if they don't like it, they don't want to, spend the time on it, you kind of just have to look at that and align that up with how they're going to run your office, right? Because people at AADOM and these conferences, they love being there, right? They love it. They just love that time together and they love being a part of AADOM. So if you have somebody who's just doesn't want to do it at all, and they don't really like going to CEs, they don't really care to learn much more, you got to think about that too in both parts of your practice, not just the dentist, but who's running their office.
I want you to answer one question that I debate with my over 55 drinking buddy dentist.
Okay.
Some of us at the bar think that when we hear some of the younger 30-year-olds whine about not being able to lead their staff, we think it's because after work they go to happy hour with them and they, get hammered with each other and they hold her hair while she pukes in the toilet and all. And that how do you? We think, here's the succinct question. We think younger millennials get too friendly with their staff, and then it's too hard to stand back and be the leader. I mean, if the employees need a coach and the coach needs players, and if I'm the coach and I'm hanging out with you, how am I going to be the hard ass that says, no, practice starts at 8 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. I don't care that you got home at 2 o'clock in the morning and we're going to run bleachers for an hour. How can you tell someone that if you were out with them till 2 in the morning?
Right, especially women. A lot of times women, they want to be liked and, they want to be friendly with everybody and they want to get this approval of people. And you can't go out there and you can't go out dancing with your staff and then expect to have an issue resolved and have to be the boss. So, but it's also important to have a relationship with your staff. So it's not all this, authoritative type of role. And a way to do that is to go out, for lunch and do pedicures, right? Just do something together outside of the office, like a team building event, but don't have it to where it's this huge social alcohol's involved and we're doing this and we're doing that. We're going as a practice after work or whenever, but you're doing things together, but not as a gal pal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well said. Very well said. Abraham Maslow, who wrote the hierarchy of needs, where the bottom was food, clothing, shelter, then all the way up to self-actualization. They asked him. They said, "Well, can an employer be a friend with an employee?" And he said, "Well, not if you want to retain the right to fire that person."
Right.
Because
absolutely.
If you fire someone, they might lose their house, apartment, car payment. I mean, you'll turn their life upside down. So if you're my buddy, then how can I fire you? So if you're going to retain the right to fire you, then I can't really be your friend. And that was one of the most prominent psychologists and anthropologists in the history of civilization.
When I first became a manager, I had spoke to my prior office manager, and she said, the only piece of advice that I have for you is that you cannot be their friend and manage them at the same time. That was the only thing she had to tell me. That was her piece of advice. And she's absolutely right, because we had a lot of young staff at that office. That's what she said. And I always think about that, and so she would never accept any friend requests on Facebook. And that was, her reasoning. But, I saw a forum on AADOM one time, and an office manager was saying, can I eat lunch with my staff? Like, they don't have a disease. You can share a lunch, with them at the table. I mean, you have a team to be, right? You don't need to isolate each other. So you can eat lunch together. It's just, you still have to keep that understanding of the relationship, right? I mean, you can't say, oh, I can't eat lunch by you. I'm your boss. That's a little much, but you have to keep it in a professional manner. But, know that you're a team, but, you're not going to go out with your girls and, hey,
Well, hey, Courtney, thank you so much for.
Has it been an hour already?
It's been an hour and 5. Thank you so much for coming on my show today. I wanted to get on an office manager and your top 25 women in dentistry for 2016 on Dental Products Report. All my friends in AADOM told me to get you, and thank you for accepting my invitation and coming on the show today.
Absolutely. I really appreciate it. It's been an honor, and I love you on LinkedIn. It's fantastic, and I appreciate you being so interactive with all my silly posts when I tag you.
All right. Well, have a great day.